the universe.
A 3-year-old Leonard danced on the screen, although no sound other than our relatives talking in the background was audible. Our old radio was in sight, but no music came from it. Leonard was wearing my tutu and our aunts were laughing their hearts out. Mother and I had watched his childhood videos over and over since he was gone, but that was the first time I had heard something different. A whisper at first, but then there was no doubt that it had a melody to it. It was a tune, different from anything I'd ever heard before, and hauntingly beautiful. I chuckled bitterly. It took me losing my brother to have the sound of the cosmos reveal itself to me. Leonard was my twin, my other half, in a sense that no romantic partner could ever hope to be. I heard his thoughts sometimes, mostly when he was scared or needed my help, which happened a lot right before he vanished. Growing up, he had an endlessly curious mind, while I wasn't a lot more than book smart. But I loved listening to him talk passionately and eloquently, even from a very young age, about anything that he was interested in. It was mostly about Radio Phantom. Even before that video when we were 3, Leonard had a habit of spending the day beside an old radio. Our parents worked a lot, and our grandma, who lived with us, was the one we spent the most time with. The radio was hers, and she was the one who taught us how to change the stations. She was more than happy to have us entertained for hours with something so simple, and that seemed safe enough to her. Grandma constantly praised us for being easy and well-behaved children. I liked the radio because you never knew what to expect next, whether it would be a cool tune, a lame one, the jingle of some local store, or just someone talking. However, I rarely listened to music. We mostly listened to the void. The void was how my brother and I called a specific frequency that contained no station. But while I heard nothing more than white noise, Leonard's ears could grasp something else, something grand and glorious. Even as Leonard got older, he would be really quiet for hours beside the radio, and often have tears in his eyes because, according to him, the sound was so beautiful. I wanted so bad to listen to it. I wanted to be the same as my brother, so I lied to him, pretending that I could hear the music of Radio Phantom too. I even added a few tears here and there so he'd believe me. I wanted to share this bond with him, and to belong. I just wanted us to be the same. I never wanted him to sacrifice himself for me. How did you start listening to Radio Phantom? I asked once, when we were 13. We were probably the only teenagers unbothered by sharing a bedroom. Twins are usually pretty close, but I really enjoyed Leonard's company way more than my friends or anyone else's.
I just did. We were so little, but I remember it very well. Grandma was changing stations, and something just started calling for me. A really pretty song. I've been listening to a lot of good music lately, but nothing compares to it. The songs on Earth are so boring compared to Radio Phantom.
He replied with a smile, eloquent as always.
What about you?
Same, but I guess it was months after you. I lied. At first, I'd only listened to the static, which was technically true, except that at first was still today.
The first few years the sound was a little blurry, and if I tried to focus on it, if I tried listening to the words, it turned back to static. But then I realized those were words that I didn't know. It was another language, so I Googled pretty much every language to listen to the words, and no language in the world sounded anything like it.
He explained. I remember us spending hours on the computer, listening to multiple people talking. So that's why we did that. I thought you wanted to learn Russian, Chinese, Portuguese, and Hindi all at once.
It was just after realizing it wasn't from this world that I started to hear everything more clearly, and now, if I really focus, I can almost understand it. I think I'm learning whatever language that is.
This is so cool, Leo. To be honest, the sound is still blurry to me. At least it was a small lie, not a big, bragging lie.
Don't worry, Lizzie, it's really hard at first.
His posture changed. Now he seemed really excited to help me.
Okay, I'll turn on the radio and I want you to focus on your third eye.
In my bottom? I asked, horrified. Leonard laughed.
No, dork, in between your two eyes, in your forehead. It's the eye of the soul, didn't you know?
Leonard was always professional in the nicest way, without being patronizing or rude. My brother was never impolite to me, no matter how stupid or annoying I might have been. We never fought, and we barely even had any differences. He was the best person I ever knew. As the years went by, not a lot changed. Our parents were still never around. But when Grandma passed, we were old enough to take care of ourselves. We were always the best of friends. The two of us had just turned 17 when Leonard had the most brilliant and dangerous idea of his life. He'd send radio signals back to wherever Radio Phantom came from. In outer space, he was sure. But how do you know it's from space? And if it is, they're too far, right? As far as we know, it will take them 1 billion years to hear you.
Yeah, people have tried to send messages to the space before, but they used Morse code or songs. The scientists don't know their language. I do, so it's worth trying. We don't know if they have technology that can capture the waves instantly, despite being 1 billion light years away. Maybe they can teleport.
His face was so bright when he said that. I think that, deep down, Leonard always felt like he didn't belong. We both knew that the only reason why he was never bullied in school was because I was popular enough to protect him. But he never had any friends other than me. The other kids seemed to lose interest in him quickly after listening to his passionate monologues about aliens and stars. Our twin connection was mostly used for sending distress signals when he felt uneasy around other people, and I always went to rescue. I'm proud to say that I never ditched my brother whenever I knew that he needed me. At least one kind of guilt that I won't carry to my grave. I'm sorry I haven't been around more, I said. I was working part-time and mostly using my free time to hang out with my friends and boyfriend. Leonard worked from home, fixing computers, and spent most of his time alone with the radio.
It's fine, Liz. We're not exactly the same person.
But we're two sides of the same coin, I replied. He gave me a puzzled smile. After we talked about it, Leonard spent months studying everything he could possibly find about fast radio bursts and how to broadcast into space. When he was ready, the two of us broke into a deactivated radio station to use their equipment.
I've considered building my own, but it takes a lot of time and money. Thanks for being such a delinquent.
We laughed. It was my idea to use the most professional transmitter we could possibly put our hands on, even if it meant using a slightly underhanded method. What are you telling them? I asked, as Leonard prepared to broadcast.
That I hear them and ask if they need anything. I never said anything in their language before, so I'm not confident.
Why? You've been listening to them your whole life. You can understand what they say for at least 5 years. You're good at it. Say everything you want to say.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
What are their songs about?
Most are about some sort of utopia, a place where no one can be touched by darkness and all beings can be happy. It's hard to say more than that because I understand it more with my mind and soul than with my ears.
Well, don't forget to tell them that you agree. Leonard then seemed deep in thought, probably finding the words to talk to his unknown friends. Then he started the broadcast. The transition lasted no more than 40 seconds. The words that he said, my head seems to explode every time I try to recall them. They were raspy, otherworldly, and the only thing I can remember clearly is thinking they sounded like ancient curses, and no human mouth should pronounce such things. It felt more ominous than I can describe, especially because, as my brother finished his broadcast, he collapsed. I'll never know if he actually said all the words he meant to, or if something stopped him mid-sentence. After 10 minutes passed out, it became clear to me that it wasn't a simple fainting spell, and that my brother wouldn't wake up so easily. Carrying him back to the car was, physically, the hardest thing I've ever done. Mentally, there was so much more to come. I spent the whole night in the ER, first alone, then with our parents. I repeated in my head the plausible story I was going to tell them, but as usual, they never asked. As a child, I thought they were just busy, but in that moment, I realized that they were downright uninterested in us. More than ever, Leonard and I only had each other. After around 4 hours, a nurse came to us and explained that Leonard didn't have anything serious, but he was unable to talk.
It's not uncommon to temporarily lose your speech after going through a traumatic experience. Was that the case with your brother?
I don't think so.
Then I'm afraid we'll have to investigate further with other exams.
My parents gave me a "we can't afford it" look that could cut a hole through my back. But my brother is very shy. Sometimes he just won't talk to people other than me. Can I see him, please? She took me to Leonard's room. Despite being pale and having a scared look on his face, Leonard seemed normal, uninjured at least. I'm so sorry I made us go there. I felt guilty. He gestured, seeming to tell me not to worry. Can you talk? He shook his head no, then mimicked writing with a pen. Can you write on my phone? He shook his head no again. I had to ask a nurse for paper and pen. Leonard then wrote,
"Devices are not safe.
What happened? Safe for what?
Something bad heard me broadcasting. Now it can understand me.
Something bad, like spies? Are you wired or something?
Something worse. A dark being.
How are you able to write then? Can it hear me?
It can hear and smell, but not see. I don't think it can hear you until you speak their language."
How do you know? How will you avoid being smelled by it then?
"I understand it because it entered my mind, so I entered his a little too. I don't know, I think it's only a matter of time."
And this was the last time I ever talked to my brother. Mother entered the room. My parents insisted that the three of us immediately went home to sleep and promised me to drop me at the hospital first thing in the morning. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay by his side. Leonard was scared. I didn't care if it was just some weird side effect from the medicine. I wanted to be there for my brother. Besides, I was half convinced that what he said was real. I remember the primal fear I felt when he spoke those ominous words I can't grasp for the life of me. And I felt watched, scrutinized, invaded. I haven't stopped feeling this way since. I didn't rest that night. I kept feeling that my brother was calling for me, asking for help, but my body was paralyzed and pinned to the bed. I wanted to drive back to the hospital, but some larger-than-life force seemed to be actively stopping me from doing it. I, too, was scared. Like electricity, the fear had seeped from him to me. Leonard vanished from the hospital in the mere 5 hours that I was away from him. The nurses were all nervous, and the police was already there when I arrived. I snuck to his empty room, knowing that there might be a clue that no one but me could understand. Crumpled under the mattress of his bed, I found his last words, written in rushed, tremulous calligraphy, and clearly addressed to me. The enemy is everywhere. I can see now. Black strings, black cords around everyone's bodies, including yours, but not mine. The enemy controls everything, and by learning his language, I broke free from him. Now it's coming for me. Liz, I'm so scared. I have awareness of the whole universe now, and it's not worth it. I can't say a lot because you can listen to the sound of the cosmos too, so you might be in danger. I'll keep you safe no matter what. Please don't listen to Phantom Radio anymore. Don't answer their call. It's close. I'm sorry, but he was always a freak. Were verbatim the only thing my boyfriend and so-called friends had to offer. I cut them off from my life. The police, of course, didn't find anything. They thought it was weird that Leonard left both his wallet and normal clothes behind. No one escapes in a hospital gown, so he was clearly abducted. But of course, the hospital had cameras and no one was seen entering without a reason, let alone leaving with a teenager. It's been over 6 months now. Dad left. His already fractured relationship with our mother unable to withstand such a violent blow. I was supposed to leave for college, but now I neither have the money or the strength to. And Mother needs me. The guilt from not paying attention to us, from not loving us enough, is killing her. So that's how she spends her days, watching the few but precious memories of her lost son, a delayed devotion born from her heavy heart. She can't function anymore, so I'm working full-time now to support the two of us. We haven't heard from Dad, except for when the three of us are called to the police station, so they can show us how many nothings they have accomplished since the last time we were there. And even then, he won't talk to us. I don't think Mother will live much longer. She's rotting from the inside. Dad doesn't care. The two of us won't have enough money to even have a house in a few months. It means I have nothing to lose. I'm convinced that it's not a coincidence that I can now hear the sounds of the cosmos. It's either a message from my brother, or he's gone for good and his gift passed to the next of kin, the sister born 7 minutes after him. So I turned on the radio. I've spent my days listening to the incomparably sweet melody that took the static's place. And if I focus on my third eye, I can even understand the vile words that are whispered along with them. They sing about breaking free from slavery, about fighting the darkness, and about giving up everything to find one last hope out there, far, far away. Sometimes they say, "Lizzie, come home." And I know it might be a trap from the enemy. I know Leonard told me to never listen to the radio phantom again, to ignore their callings. But I have nothing to lose and everything to gain if I broadcast a message into the space, and whatever is out there comes to rescue me, especially if they're with my brother, safe and sound. We were born 7 minutes apart. It's only right and almost poetic that we are reborn at an interval of 7 months. My hands are trembling as I write this. I'm terrified to speak out loud this cursed language that took my brother from me, and I fear the very fear that I'll feel when I break free from its strings. But Leonard needs me, and I need him, and I'm convinced that it's worth it to die trying. Or worse. I'm sorry I never said anything before, but I know that you wouldn't believe me. It's November 2nd, 2020, and I'm breaking into the radio station again tonight. If no one ever hears from me again, know that I'm either in a far star with good friends, or in eternal suffering I can't be rescued from. Sincerely, Elizabeth Lizzie Thomas.
The police department of Williamsville, Louisiana, found this letter on November 16th, after the neighbors reported a terrible smell coming from the Thomas household. Mrs. Thomas seems to have hung herself in the living room. It was either suicide or murder by her ex-husband, and the case is still under investigation. Mrs. Thomas was a mother of two 17-year-old twins, Leonard, who had mysteriously disappeared from the local hospital months earlier, and Lizzie, who was nowhere to be found. None of them have been located to this date. However, one day after the date of Lizzie's letter, scientists were able to track the source of a space radio signal for the first time.